Babe, I'm trying to look extra Jewish today. How am I doing?
Doing a great job as usual.
Am I what as usual?
What?
I get a
Is it
comment.
bad if I like your Judaic stylings?
I get a comment every so often
Yeah.
that's like, "Oh, you Jew? How dare you say this about my XYZ media?" Or how
Yeah.
dare you say this about my XYZ topic of interest?
It's a great way to dismiss your arguments very easily.
I
Perfectly.
don't know how these people even know that I'm Jewish. Like, what gives it away exactly?
They say that to everyone.
Well,
They just say that to everyone ever since Kanye told them it's cool.
I mean, they've been saying this shit to me for 5-6 years, babe.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you just attract those types sometimes.
I outed myself at some point.
Yeah.
And I guess they, in their Discord server,
Yes.
told everyone that I'm that.
The secret Discord server.
Somebody told them that you're that.
Yeah, because of this big nose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not, though, funnily enough.
We're going with that. We're going with that. But I've been thinking about something, babe.
What?
I've been thinking about how the kids are not all right.
Aren't they? What's up with the kids these days?
So I watched a report on PBS NewsHour about how kids, like high school age kids in like I think it was Glendale, Arizona, or the Phoenix suburbs, are going around filming themselves beating up on 8-year-old kids, old people, robbing people out of their cars, stealing people's cars in some cases, and so on. They're filming that, putting it on Instagram and TikTok, and I don't want to be able to see right now. Can I just like put these over here? Yes, I can. And all these different places.
Yeah.
And as a result, you got people gaining clout from it. You've got people who are, I wouldn't say making a living, but they're making a name for themselves out of doing this. And it's also making them easier to get arrested, which is nice. But it appears to be a nationwide trend at this point, because while crime has gone down to its lowest point in like 40 years, youth crime in many cities is going up. And so this is a precarious issue, right? Because I feel like, at least in my opinion, it displays a change in youth culture that I think is caused by social media.
Yeah, I mean, well, the most valuable currency among teenagers has always just been like how cool they are in the eyes of their peers, and like social media has made it so you can be like very like, you know, famous or very like well known from like a young age. So everybody aspires to be like that like TikTok star that like everyone in their school like recognizes in the hallway and stuff like that, because like to them that's more valuable than money or like anything else. Just like being, you know, the guy, or like, you know.
Yeah. But what's strange about it, like, is that now what makes you the guy has changed. Like, in the past, you were the guy, sometimes through being kind of an asshole, through being kind of a bully, but it was like relatively harmless. Like, it was people picking on people who were their own size, you know?
Yeah.
It was people starting fights with people who are, you know, socially awkward or antisocial in some respect, but like, you know, obviously you shouldn't do that. You learn as an adult that you shouldn't do that. Some kids already know, but generally people learn as an adult that you shouldn't do that. But then as a kid, like, it happens, and it's like, whatever, growing pains.
Yeah.
But the level that they're taking it to now, I think is sort of unprecedented. Because while in the past you had like gangster rap being particularly popular among people in the communities that it talked about, you know, in like Section 8 and all of that, and sometimes you had kids replicating actions that were in that music. It's like, it's not like they listened to the music and then went out and started wanting to do that stuff. They were doing that stuff ostensibly because there were very few other options in the place that they were from, and the music was talking about it because that was stuff that was already happening in those places. This is kind of unique to me because, at least from my sense, this stuff wasn't already happening for the most part. Like, to me, this is an all new thing. And I think you can see that in terms of how much the youth crime has risen.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think to your point about like the rap culture and stuff like that, it's like, you know, you don't really get famous for like replicating like the crimes that the rappers would talk about back then. Like, you would be famous for being the rapper,
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're a 13-year-old, you probably don't have the talents to be like the next big rapper just yet, you know, or if ever, but like definitely not yet.
Well, some of them were pretty good at that age.
Yeah, fair enough. And those ones do end up making a name for themselves. But for the rest who don't have that much talent, you know, you gotta get a little more creative.
Yeah.
And like, you know, nothing really gets views like, you know, like violence and, you know, sex and this type of, and drugs and this type of stuff. So it's like, if you can,
don't I know it?
If you can get like good like violence on video, like especially like against these like helpless people, you know, like you said, like these people who like often get bullied and stuff like that, you know, these awkward kids, or in this case, like it seems like either like old people or like young kids and stuff like that they're picking on.
Yeah.
It's like you can end up getting like, you know, a lot of attention, a lot of clout, a lot of controversy, and that can make your videos go viral, and it can make you like blow up in the algorithms. And at that point, it's like, you know, everyone in your school is going to know who you are because they all follow the same Instagram accounts and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's very strange to me. So there's a few things you said that I found interesting. Well, the first thing I would say, like, you know, with the rappers example, it's like if people started replicating like what the rappers themselves are doing, that's refining their creativity, that's productive, that's, you know, something that will probably help their development, right?
Yeah.
With filming these sorts of acts, like these like really low acts that we're talking about, I don't quite understand who the audience is.
I mean, the audience is just like people who are scrolling through their shorts feed or like watching these short form videos and just seeing something that catches their eye, like something either disturbing or, you know, crazy happening, and like it's just human nature to stay and watch and give it your view time.
Is it really? Because I've never been on LiveLeak. I've never looked at a Rect thread before. I've never, you know, when YouTube starts to show me those like animals dying videos or like animal fights other animal, I never click on them. I think there's a lot of people who are just like me, who just have no morbid curiosity, who don't want to see that type of stuff because it naturally makes them feel bad. Now, there are people who want to look at that stuff specifically because it makes them feel bad, and that's kind of like a morbid curiosity type thing.
Yeah, well, you look up this like harmless stuff, like you want to see videos of dogs and cats and stuff like that, And this stuff still ends up coming up.
Yeah.
That to me just speaks to just how popular it is.
Yeah.
Like, people do want to see this type of content. Like, that's the reason World Star is so popular. That's the reason Live Leak was so popular.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these things are just, they've always been like, there's always been a big market for them. People just want to put, like, there's just a lot of eyeballs on it.
Yeah. See, that was... See, you mentioned a website I'd never even heard of just now. Like...
World Star Hip Hop?
World Star... Oh, wait. Are you talking about the rap YouTube channel?
It used to be its own website where they would post fight compilations along with the rap stuff. It would be rap and it would be fight compilations. That was like the two big thing. And like, it used to be a meme where like you would see people fighting and you would scream World Star and you would start filming it.
Huh, I had no idea.
I don't know if people still do that, but that's what people would do back in the day.
I mean, I've seen plenty of music videos on their YouTube channel. I've never seen that, so I mean, I guess I'm
that's
lucky.
like that's like part of their older like culture.
Oh, I almost turned the phone off.
Yeah. We're still recording. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this is like what I struggle to understand. I simultaneously struggle to understand like why they're doing it in the first place, and then also why it's gaining clout. Because like you say, it's popular and lots of people watch this stuff. I believe that, but I'm just like looking at it like, why? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would you want to make yourself feel bad? I know about the concept of morbid curiosity. Like, I know what it is. I can identify the concept, but I can't really empathize with it.
Well, the thing is, for a lot of people, they don't feel bad. They feel like, yeah, like, get him. Like God, like, that type of thing. You know, like, this aggressive, like, impulse that they have. Like, they some part of them wants to be violent, but they can't because they live in a society. So they see this stuff and it allows them to express their violent impulses.
See, that's what's crazy.
Through like seeing other people.
Yeah, that's what's like, that to me is like absolutely nuts. Especially when you start to bring children in the mix. It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, actually, what is wrong with you? Or the elderly. Any group of people in society who's uniquely vulnerable. Now, once you start introducing that like violent element, I mean, this is like Nazi stuff. I mean, This is like, I mean, they used to have, you know, posters up, you know, before they started gassing and murdering all the disabled people, and the children that were born with the disabilities. You know, they'd have the posters up saying like, you know, this tax money is yours too, brother, and like, you know, having like the disabled person like kicked over or whatever.
Yeah.
Like and to me, this matches that energy. Like, this is literally on some Nazi shit, like extermination type shit.
Real.
And yeah, I said this in a video once. Like, it's like our culture has become so profoundly mean. You know, people talk about wanting to ban social media for minors, but all that would really do is put a Band-Aid on the problem. Because, you know, while it would make it to where people wouldn't be accessing this kind of content and trying to get clout from it, generally speaking, it wouldn't really fix the culture and problems that lead people to being mean like this in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even really know what that is. Like, I don't know what the cause is here.
Yeah, it's like something is putting this like violent impulse inside of their minds.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's hard to say what that is. I think a lot of it is what they see around them. You know, maybe some like human nature or like you know, mental illness, bad family life. I mean, it could be any number of things, but there's like a lot of things in our world that are violent, and they sort of end up replicating themselves like across as they like infect more and more people.
I mean, that's, to me, this whole concept of human nature is very silly, because if you look at, for example, certain tribes in Africa or in North America, uh, many of them literally had no concept of war. Like, when other tribes would come and try and raid their place and take their stuff, rather than taking up arms in response, they would just run away.
Yeah.
And I think we've sort of been conditioned to believe that violence is just this innate part of life that we are always preparing for.
Yeah.
But societies of the past, many of them demonstrated that that's not necessarily the case, or rather, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And so this notion that, like, human beings are inherently violent and we're always, interested in that, it's difficult for me to grasp because I know that's not me. Like, I find no pleasure whatsoever in hurting people. I have no interest in it. It doesn't, stand out to me.
Yeah.
But you have other people who are, like, particularly fixated on it.
Yeah, well, I guess it's like, if you are confronted in, like, a violent situation, your only choices really are to either fight back or to, basically run away or, like, submit and, like, accept your defeat.
Mm-hmm.
And people these days, they aren't willing to ever submit or to accept defeat because they see it as, like, showing weakness and like that, and they see that as like a shameful thing. I
mean, not running away, that defending yourself is obviously a different thing. Because if someone is attacking you and you could die, I mean, there's nothing wrong with defending yourself. I think the point that I was trying to make is like, I don't think this is something innate to, like, nature.
Yeah.
I think what's going on here is, like, they were taught.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, who taught them this? Like, where is it coming from? Like, if I can come from the same society as, like, relatively speaking, at least, a lot of these other people, and I don't have these kind of impulses, I don't feel this way.
Yeah. I think it's something that runs, like, very, very deep. Like, something that's, like, almost, like, intertwined into the history of, like almost like the idea of, like, countries even existing in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gave the example of the natives. Like, they're willing to, like, give up their land and, like, give up their stuff because it's not really the same as, like, our type of conception of, like, oh, we own this land, like, this is our homeland and stuff like that.
That's true.
It's like, it's the same reason why like, in, like, the war, well, I don't even want to necessarily go into, like, current wars, but it's like people will generally fight for what's theirs. People won't give up even if it means, like, saving, like, so many lives in the process.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not even really advocating for just, like, laying down and taking it or whatever. I'm more so like, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of making the same point that you're making, like, the way that society affects our thinking is, like, a very pervasive thing. Whatever the society happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you look so scared. You look like a frightened animal throughout this video. Like, you're, like, looking away, like something's about to come out and eat you.
I'm just shy on camera.
I know, and I'm teasing you about it. Aw, thank you. But yeah, I mean, it's strange. I mean, you're right. I think there is some extent to which once you have, like, drawn borders, like, the desire to defend those borders creates certain violent impulses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think when that sort of violence is applied domestically toward innocents, and the most vulnerable people, that's when you start to really scratch your head, because you're not defending territory at that point. It's like these people are engaging in some cruel sport.
Well, a lot of the original, like, rhetoric behind, like, gangs and stuff like, it is about territory.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is our hood, like, you know, if you come around here, you know, you can expect to get hit, like that type of stuff.
Yeah. Although I would give the caveat to that like a lot of that had to do with like specifically cornering markets when trafficking illegal goods and services.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like prostitution, arms trafficking, drugs. These are things that the government has created a black market for, and so the way that you get your slice of the pie in that scenario, you know, get your little monopoly zone, is by preventing other factions, other gangs from encroaching on it. How do you do that with violence? Because there's no regulatory framework to ensure fair and reasonable competition to resolve disputes legally.
Fair enough, yeah.
And so I feel like that's kind of different.
I mean, there's like financial incentives around like something bigger like nationhood as well, you know? Like you want to keep your land, you want to, there's always opportunity cost to giving up your position. And I think people are afraid of losing that. Yeah,
I mean, that's true.
It's kind of like, you know, you're sacrificing something of yourself in that.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold you now. Okay. I've got the camera so close to you.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's really strange the way all of this works. I just want everyone to be nice to each other.
Why can't everyone just get along? Share your toys.
I want everyone to be kind, rewind the VHS player tape, because I really don't want to have to rewind it myself if I work at the video store. You see, like, that's like a couple extra minutes of work. I just want to stand here. That's why I got this job.
Just be a decent person.
Yeah. Just be a decent person.
Being an asshole should be discouraged, but it's like it's really not. Like the systems barely even consider that factor in a lot of things. It's like you can get really famous by being a fucking asshole. It's like that shouldn't be allowed, right? Like that just seems like a recipe for disaster. You can get really rich by being an asshole. Yeah. You can get really far in this life by being a piece of shit. And it's like that's not really, you know, it's not really productive. I mean, I got an entire wife by doing that. Oh wow. I don't know how true that is, but I think it's a little bit more than that.
No, I got an entire wife by being nice.
Real.
But yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know who a lot of this content is for, because I guess partially because I've never watched any of it. Like, I know that there's this one guy on YouTube that you told me about that just like walks around neighborhoods until he finds Muslims to like scream at them about how, like, what was it, Muhammad, he claims that like Muhammad was a pedophile and these sorts of things. Yeah. And
Earl like call them Terrys, like terrorists.
Yeah. I mean, like, I just can't watch stuff like that. I mean, it's true, Muhammad was a pedophile, but, like, it's pretty rude to just run up to somebody who was probably, like, groomed into being a Muslim in the first place by their parents, and it's just sort of, like, that's their own personal trauma. Like, your religion, I hate to say it, your religion is your own personal trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess not yours, because both of your parents were atheists. You just came to your own conclusion, which is fine. It's like, if you're not hurting anybody by believing in that stuff, it's fine. But, like, most people, like, they didn't really have a choice in believing in this stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, like, you get people, like, running up to them, insulting them, and, like, fucking with them.
And they think they're, like, the hero of, like, they're, like, the hero of their city or something like that by, like, getting rid of these terrorists. Yeah. And it's, like, I'm someone who watches that stuff. Like, it's so cringe, yeah, but it's, like, it's almost like you can't look away. Like you just click on one and you're just like, oh, this one's crazy, and then you see the next video on the recommended. It's like something even crazier. It's like, oh, I gotta see what that's all about. You know?
It's like oddly fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand kind of like where this type of impulse comes from.
Yeah.
Like he'll just go into like a store and say that like everybody who has a mask is like muzzled and stuff like that, and then like be like, don't you know that you know it's fake and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing with that type of content though is that it's more of like just like absurd theater than it like, you know, like direct violence is a little different, but it's like only similar in the sense that it's like content of people like being like really unempathetic to those around them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you just, you know, being like shitty for content.
Yeah. Blah. Can you hold this?
Sure, I'll hold it.
Yes. But yeah. This shit is weird.
But yeah.
The kids are not alright.
They're not doing great.
No. Like, there was a time when every generation for both genders was consistently becoming more left-leaning, more egalitarian, more considerate of others.
Yeah.
And now we're sort of seeing this odd dynamic where young boys are becoming more right-wing and also more misogynistic, whereas young girls, it's the exact opposite. They're like more progressive than ever.
Yeah.
For the first time, we've seen the genders diverge in this way. And
it's almost like two whole different worlds that they're living in.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's no wonder why they're feeling more separated from each other than ever before in like dating and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder, like, I mean, I hope that these girls are not getting abused, number one, because, you know, these kids, their favorite guy on TikTok is telling them to cheat on their girl and have multiple, you know, girlfriends for Ilah or whatever.
To be a true Sigma man. It's like part of that grind set.
Yeah. And then obviously you have the women who, you know, they love trans and they love, I don't know, like all the 36 genders. And I mean, that's good. I mean, I support that. But it's just so different that, like, I have the sense that those girls are going to get treated bad when they, like, inevitably want a boyfriend. You know?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Because some of these guys will learn, like, some of them just get sucked up into it for a few years, then they, like, hammer things out and they mature. And sometimes they do that because of love. Yeah. Other times they do that just because they're growing up. But many of them, I think, get stuck in this rabbit hole and they, like, genuinely believe these things.
Yeah. And it can be hard to break out of that type of, like, prison of belief when it's like something you hold so strongly. Like, everybody online is, like, at least in your specific echo chamber, is, like, telling you that this is, like, you know, God's honest truth.
Yeah.
And kind of, like, saying that, like, viewing it in any other way is, like, you know, like, cucked or, like, you know, like, pathetic and stuff like that. It makes it so you don't even want to think in a different way.
Yeah, and, I mean, the views as well, like, if you look at a lot of the things that incels believe, for example, a lot of it is like society is the problem, women are the problem, everyone but me is the problem. I should never, you know, change my behavior because everybody else is the problem. And nothing I'm doing could possibly be wrong because actually everyone else is wrong.
Right.
It's like the opposite of being humble. And I think a lot of these, like, political views that coincide with that in these internet communities that these boys are falling into also can be summed up with those phrases. Like, everyone else is the problem, I'm not.
Everybody except for me is the problem.
Yeah. Which is, like, terrible advice to give for people who are developing.
Yeah, it's basically saying like don't develop. That's like what it's saying.
Yeah, don't admit fault. Don't try to improve yourself.
Don't take responsibility for your own life.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally saying don't take responsibility.
It's the opposite of advice.
Yeah.
Advice, like you're supposed to advise someone in like an attempt to help them grow.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it's like don't grow, don't proceed. You know, stay right where you are and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
It's a mind poison.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And I think the political component to this, the dehumanization that's inherent in a lot of those political beliefs that these young people are getting into, is also influencing their violent attitudes towards these vulnerable groups of people. Because when you truly believe that everyone is just an individual pursuing their own selfish ends and that society is better that way, when you truly believe that, you know, the weak need to succumb to the will of the strong or just ought to not be there, when you truly believe that these, you know, abusive, bad experiences make people better even, you are going to be really bad to everyone around you because you, in your philosophical framework, you think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and like you're basically rewarded for being like that.
Yeah.
By this like social media shit.
Yeah, and I mean, when you have someone who might be again, the president of the United States calling people who immigrate to this country vermin, calling them filth, saying that they are poisoning the blood of the country. These are all quotes. I think there's going to be some young people who hear about all those pests, because that's what they are. They're pests. Yeah. And they're going to think we need an exterminator. You know, we need someone. And again, this is not my view. For, you know, the YouTube AI listening to all of this, they think that someone needs to go and exterminate all these groups. And that's how it starts. I think that's how the cycle of dehumanization starts. When you have people who are impressionable being influenced by people in positions of power, people with great amounts of clout and popularity. Yeah. When you have them being influenced by those people with a large microphone saying such terrible things, and then they start to genuinely believe those things and mimic those things, you end up with this kind of problem. Yeah.
And I think our saving grace for the longest time was that these people generally don't like stick around too long, like any individual one. Like eventually, like, you know, your favorite, like, male, like Sigma male influencer type is gonna get replaced. You know, like even like Andrew Tate is like on his way out at this point. Yeah. And it's like, but the thing is, like, we have Trump and he just has so much sticking power. Yeah. And he has so much like power in general too. So yeah, that's pretty worrying, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, you know, I used to feel like the kind of like far right culture was like this hegemonic thing that, like, on the internet at least. Yeah. But now it feels like there's like these diverging communities that are all off in kind of their own place. Right. And they don't usually interact much.
Yeah. And that limits their scope of power, I would say, to some extent.
I would say that limits their ability to communicate to the people who are just, like, they have no views whatsoever. Like, if you're not really communicating with each other, like, those people are just going to gravitate toward whatever's popular among the people they talk to. Yeah. Which is probably, like, Tate or whatever, you know?
Exactly.
And I don't even really know.
I mean, there's like so many of these influencers now.
Yeah.
That are like all like styled the same. They're all into like this like hustle and, you know, like just being disrespectful to women and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's all like the same stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, if there was like a male influencer who, and I know there's guys like this out there, you know, usually they've been in the military or the National Guard or something, and they're just like kind of center left or like in the center.
Yeah.
And you know, they're big earners. They've got the big muscles and everything, and they're respectful to women and so on. And obviously they're anti-racist because you get, you know, taught that in the military.
Right.
They could go out there and give the self-help thing, but also have these middle-of-the-road, tolerant political views that they put out there as well.
Right.
And I'm sure there's somebody out there doing that. But I don't think there's enough, and I don't think they have enough influence. And I mean, maybe it's because the people with these kind of like boomer, you know, 1950s, 1930s views on the world and other people feel like these rebellious, like bad boys to these kids.
Yeah.
Whereas like someone like that, you know, might just feel like their dad.
Yeah, it's like your dad telling you to take responsibility and like and like, you know, take responsibility for your own problems and not blame other people. It's like you don't want to hear that. You want to hear Andrew Tate tell you that it's all everybody else's fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that society just sucks.
And I mean, the weird thing is though, is that to some extent he does say to take responsibility. He says to take responsibility for your body and for making a lot of money. Which is, I think, what a lot of people on some level do want to hear, but they don't necessarily want to hear that you have to take responsibility for all these other, like, more complex things.
Moral responsibility, I think, is the biggest one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you make an impact on this world whether you like it or not. It's like, is it going to be positive or is it going to be negative? Yeah. And it's like, if you just throw that responsibility to the wind, say, oh, I don't care, you know, it's all about me. I gotta get what I want to get. You know, fuck everyone else. It's like, yeah, you're gonna screw over a lot of people. Yeah. You're gonna hurt a lot of people. And it's not cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's almost something like, how do I put this? Inherently negative about, you know, living in a country where from minute one, you have everyone telling you, you can be anything you want to be. You can make as much money as you want if you just work as hard as possible and focus on yourself.
Yeah.
On the surface, I think that should be like a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But I think in practice, it becomes a kind of nightmare because you have a lot of different people who feel morally justified in not taking responsibility for others.
Yeah, because they think that other people did it to themselves, and you know, I mean, in a lot of ways they did, but also it's like, you know, it's very much possible to make things worse for the people around you. Yeah,
it's like, even if people are making things worse for themselves, that's not a reason to make things worse for them.
Yeah,
like to make it even worse. Right? Yeah. You know, if you were really just a self-interested individual pursuing your own ends, you would leave everyone else the fuck alone. You know, like you would actually do your own thing instead of trying to use people as like toys for your entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like the ways that people like, you know, get really wealthy quickly these days is like either scamming someone, selling them a dream, like some course or something like that, or like you know, doing some like immoral stuff, like the stuff that, you know, Andrew Tate got caught doing.
Yeah, pimping.
Yeah, pimping. Yeah, that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it's like you have to dehumanize the people that you're doing that to some extent in order to justify it to yourself, because if you see them as like the same as you, It's like, how can you treat them like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's not like they have the right to unionize or any like worker protections or something. Like
No.
they could work for themselves and try and find clients that way.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, if you have a boss who has a lot of different women working under them, they're going to, depending on what other industries they're aware of and what connections they have, probably do a better job than you at finding people. But of course, once you have that boss, once you're in that situation, I mean, you're open to being exploited.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of the person that you are supposedly like under the care of.
Because it's not a regulated industry.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if you look at a state like Nevada, where it is a regulated industry, prostitution, they don't have those kind of problems. And I mean, I think you're going to be shocked by me saying this.
Yeah.
But I think the criminal elements in society, like the things in the market that people want, that certain people get very wealthy from selling illegally. If those things were regulated, you would start to see some of these problems go away. Because you wouldn't have these really nefarious actors rise to the top through being violent and evil.
Yeah.
You'd have instead people in suits and, you know, with degrees, under very strict regulations, rising to kind of the top through doing the same thing that everyone else running a business does. And then you wouldn't have that violence innate to the country and the culture that is associated with that kind of organized crime. Organized crime effectively wouldn't exist because it wouldn't have a purpose. Like there wouldn't be commodities that it's trying to traffic,
right,
or services that it's trying to procure.
Right. And I mean, I think even through like the legal means, there can still be like a lot of exploitation.
That's true.
But I would say less so, like compared to like a more, compared to like an unregulated system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like the extremes to which you can be abusive are, basically limited to some extent by the law, the word of the law.
Yeah. I think the other solution to this, I think you might disagree with me on this one. The other solution to this, in my ideal world, would be sectoral bargaining. Because if you live in a country where, you know, there's a two-tiered employment system, so like you have some people that are in a union and they get paid a certain amount, the other workers are ununionized and they don't get paid that amount, or if you just join the union, you get paid like lower, all this shit.
Yeah.
You have right to work where like people don't have to pay their union dues, and it's like generally discouraged to form one. And even if you just have them at individual workplaces, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have like massive inequalities across the various different people that are working. Whereas if you could organize in like entire sectors, like let's say you have a nursing union, a writers union, a union for fast food workers, just in every restaurant.
Yeah.
You would have so much people power.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
That you would guarantee a quality of life for a lot of these parents and these kids that would remove a lot of, I think, the anxiety and education inequality as well, because that's tied to economic stuff.
Yeah.
That leads to this kind of alienation that comes out in this way.
Yeah.
I think it would also create a kinder culture, because if you have, there's actually been studies on this, where if you have people in a union with gay people, trans people, minorities of various sorts that had biases coming in, those biases tend to fade away. Like union members on average tend to be a lot less prejudiced. And the reason that it generally is assumed, that I think makes intuitive sense, is when you're in a union, you have to collaborate. Like you have to, a lot of the time you have to not just have a majority decision, you have to have a unanimous decision.
Yeah.
And that comes through like rigorous debate and working through your differences.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like what leads to like the solidarity amongst the workers.
Yeah.
And I actually agree with you that like as far as unions go, the best way is these like more broad and all-encompassing unions.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it just seems to make the most sense. It's just like, I mean, I just feel like at that point it's like every sector basically has to have a union if you're gonna have that type of system.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's just these like really like weak and despondent like spots in the economy that are just these holes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
everyone needs somebody to represent them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the more inequalities that you start to remove, and the more of an equal playing field that everyone is put on, the more... Do you want me to hold this?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
The more that everyone's on an equal playing field similar to one another, I think the more that this kind of bullying and violence will become less pervasive. Yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly just taking some wild guesses here because it's difficult for me to even understand why stuff like this would happen.
Yeah, I feel like it seems like a very foreign concept to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, it's like the fact that this stuff has been around since like the beginning of like the internet. It just kind of shows that like people just really have like some sort of innate desire for this type of stuff. And I think that it's always going to be popular online. Yeah.
I don't even know if it's innate because I think like it's got to come from somewhere.
It's got to come from somewhere. Yeah, but it's like it's so deep in the culture that it's like almost innate, you know? It's like not innate to humanity, but like innate to somebody who lives in the type of society that we live in. Not everyone will have that experience, but it's like a common feature.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like
crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. You know, this video was supposed to be about I honestly don't know what this was supposed to be about.
Well, we were just originally talking about those kids.
Yeah, well, I wanted to try and, like, do my weird cavalier thing where, like, I try to make an argument for censorship again.
Yeah.
But then I ended up just saying the position that I've always held, which is, like, not actually believing in censorship.
Yeah.
So I went mask off before I ever put the mask on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the solution is something like something to do with like the very nature of like how social media works and stuff like that, like how people like gain like clout and that type of stuff. Yeah. But I really don't know how it could be done in a way where like you can't like chase clout on there. Like I feel like people would just migrate somewhere where they could.
I mean, yeah, of course.
It's like if it was just about the content and like not about the people behind it, you know, I think you could build like a type of social media where it is like, you know, positive and productive. But like the second it becomes about like, you know, like you building yourself up as a person, building up your clout, building up your ego, like you're gonna run into these types of problems. Yeah, I mean, it's so true.
Although I also think you can build clout doing positive things. Like a great example of that is Mr. Beast.
Oh, 100%.
He's built his clout through just doing charity.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't like a lot of those videos because I do kind of just see it as charity porn. AI generated at that. But like there's an example of a positive influence for the young people. And I mean, that, to be fair, that's a positive influence for like the really, really young people, you know, and like I'm talking like 5, 6, whatever.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like there's definitely like positives. I guess what I'm saying is like there can be like there can and there will be negative aspects that emerge from that type of system. But that's not to say anything about the positive stuff. Like there's so much positive stuff out there too. And like some of that is linked to like certain figures and stuff like that. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that is someone who is, Mr. Beast seems to at least be like respectful of everybody. Like he has like a trans friend or whatever. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's cool. He seems like a good enough guy.
Yeah, but they need someone who's based in that way for more like teenagers. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's like a lot of teenagers that try and like copy his type of stuff. Like they'll try and like do like get into that type of charity and stuff like that. So I think it's already influencing the next generation because they see, a lot of them, they see how many views they could get. Like they see how many views Mr. Beast gets and they're like, oh, I want a piece of that pie. You know, so I'm going to be generous so I can get those kind of views too.
I'm feeling you now. You're hiding. This guy. This one. He's been staring at us this entire time.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal is.
I don't know either.
I'm not sure. He has like that look in his eye like he's gonna try something, but I'm not sure what.
I'm not sure. I hope it's not rape. I'm not down for that.
For real? Yeah.
Yeah. What is going on over here?
Show that.
Don't. Really?
It's okay. It's okay, I suppose.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I hope that more positive influences come up. I mean, when I was a kid, I watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I grew up thinking, God, I wish I were him. You know, I want to grow up to be like him. And
we had Mr. Rogers, they have Mr. Beast.
I mean, that's...
It's not quite the same. But...
No, that's not good. If that's the case, that's not good either. That's, like, not good for different reasons, though. Yeah. I don't fucking know, babe.
I don't know.
I'm, like, completely inconclusive about this.
This world is so crazy. Like, what's even going on?
Maybe I should, like, read some studies about, like, teen violence and what motivates it. Maybe I should, like, I should, like, really, like, hammer in the research.
Yeah.
Try to figure out what maybe the neurological causes are. Or the sociological causes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because at the moment, like, having not really researched this stuff, I only have theories.
Yeah, it's such a mysterious thing. I think this is something that, you know, we're really gonna explore as a society in like the next decade or so, like what the effects of all this social media stuff is on society.
Yeah, but
it's intriguing for sure.
I mean, part of me wonders, because I said that, like, for example, banning it for the minors would only be a band-aid on the problem. I really do believe that there's something deeper at play here that's causing people to want to post that stuff, and that's causing them to get rewarded for posting that stuff.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Very strange.
Yeah, but do you know what is... I was about to say the two of us, but that's, like, not even remotely true.
Yeah, we're pretty strange.
Yeah, we're pretty strange. And we just spent 54 minutes talking about basically nothing.
Yeah. Into a little black square.
Yeah, well, that part is the least abnormal part about it. I don't know if you've noticed this, that I've been staring at your tits this entire time. Either through the either through the screen on the camera or just directly.
Damn, okay.
It's like my eyes, like they just like drop there. I can't stop doing it.
Yeah, you're using me for clickbait for your channel.
Honestly, sometimes I do that, but that's not usually why I have you in these videos. I usually have you in these videos because I like you.
Oh, I know. I'm really glad to be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
I always have so much fun making these with you.
I think it's gonna get too spicy in here if I don't. It's gonna get too hot for YouTube if I don't click the stop button right about now.
Maybe we should sign off for now.
Someone on Reddit said once that they asked a question. They said, "Is this foreplay?" in response to one of my videos, and I mean, I can't directly answer that, but the only thing I can say is it might be.